Well, it's an honor to keep moving on. I think we all understand how difficult it is to make the tournament. I never lose sight of how difficult it is to win a game. So I just keeping your kids grounded, staying in the moment. Like probably our best player, one of our best players in the game before was Tajay Moore. Last night he got in foul trouble and wasn't really, didn't make an impact on the game at all. It just shows you how difficult from game to game. So you just have to, don't get ahead of yourself. Every game is kind of like a box. Has no bearing on the game before and has no bearing on the game after. You just have to stay in the moment. Preparing for the last game, you have multiple days to get ready. For the second game, you have one day. So you try not to overload them with information. We know what we do, and we try to do it to the best of our ability. Villanova's is one of those great brands in college basketball, and has been for a generation. I remember back to Raleigh Massimino and Ed Pinkney and that group, and all the way through to Jay. It's Villanova's. It's one of those iconic names in college basketball, and it's a big honor to be playing them to move on.
Right there.
Yeah, hey Kelvin, Dan Wolken,
No,
USA
Dan, sorry.
Dan Wolken, USA Today. Throughout the season, a lot of leagues where teams are kind of beating each other up all year get a lot of the attention. In your league, it seems like maybe you're the game that every opponent gets up for and focuses on. What's better in terms of preparing for the tournament, and has the setup that you guys have had worked in your favor at all?
What do you mean by setup?
Well, just the fact that you guys are supposed to dominate.
Yeah, okay, yeah. No, and it's been like that for about 4 years now. I think it was 17, 18 when the kid from Michigan threw that shot in. So it started that next year. I think the next year we went 33-4 and lost to Kentucky. But that entire season, I think we started off 15-0 or 16-0. I don't remember how high we got ranked, but you could tell. So this was the fourth year of it, and because we just came off a Final Four, we got everybody's best shot. It was alumni night, whiteout, blackout, bring back the class of 63 night. It was a night everywhere. It's the biggest crowds, Saturdays. It's just the way it's been for us. But that's the price you pay. We've had a bullseye on our back for a while. Sometimes you have a team at the
Audio issues. Are we all right?
All right.
There you go.
This is better. We play in a really good league, very well coached league. SMU on the road on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, January or February. It's a tough game. You saw what Memphis did to Gonzaga. That wasn't a fluke. Memphis could have easily won that game. They're as good as anybody we've played so far. But every league has a best team, a team that you shoot at. But I think that's helped us understand that we can't have slip-ups. We went 15-3 in our league. But I think what I was most proud of is we went 7-2 on the road. It's hard to win on the road, and especially when it's such a big game for that team. So I was proud of that. As far as other leagues, so every year is always the same. You you believe what you read about. Our conference isn't, we're street over from Main Street. You go down and take a right, and there's the American Athletic Conference. You don't take a right for these other leagues. I've coached in those leagues. I know how that is. But you can win in college basketball. You can win a championship from anywhere. Gonzaga is a championship program. Houston, I think, is a championship program. Villanova is a championship program. All the teams. Texas Tech is I watched them play. It wouldn't have surprised me that they won the championship this year. There's such a fine line between winning this when you get this far, winning and losing. I mean, it's such a fine line. Who's playing good, who's not, what's your matchup? It's like the seeding thing. Are you underseeded, you overseeded? I just don't ever pay attention to that stuff. Who do we play? We went to the conference tournament. These weeks and days start running together for me, whenever it was. Our first game was Cincinnati, second game Tulane, third game was Memphis. Won all three of those, and then our next game was UAB, next game was Illinois, and next game was Arizona, and our next game is Villanova. That's just the way I think. I don't think about seeding. It's just get my team ready to play the next game. That's kind of always been my deal.
Yep. Here on the right.
Mike Sealski from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Kelvin, you mentioned Villanova's brand as a great program. How do you feel like, to kind of reframe that question to you and to Houston, I would say that maybe Houston basketball has a brand or had a brand with Phi Slamma Jamma and its history and things like that. How do you feel like that aligns with what you do with the program and the way you approach building a program and the way you want your teams to play? Is there a connection between what the traditional Houston quote-unquote brand was and what you do with your program now?
Not really. This is 2022. Every kid that we recruit was born in the 2000s. Most of these kids have no idea who I do. I saw them play. I remember, but these kids don't. These kids know who Quentin Grimes is. They watched him last year go to the Final Four. Kids in our part of the country know who Rob Gray is. You guys probably don't. But we sell our program. We sell our program. This era. Older reporters talk a lot about Phi Slamma Jamma because that's what they remember. But these kids, it's like we're getting ready to redo the Guy V. Lewis Development Center. And I think it should always be known. Jim Nance is a good friend of mine, and he's always talking to me about this. But I said, look, Jim, Guy V. Lewis built the brand University of Houston. When I was trying to decide whether to do this or not, one of the reasons why it's like Billy Tubbs at Oklahoma. One of the reasons why I went to Oklahoma is because what Billy Tubbs did. Billy Tubbs plowed that field, planted the seeds. He showed me that field could be prosperous. And so we went to Oklahoma because I knew it could win because of what Billy did. And I would say the same thing about Coach Lewis. Both those guys are Hall of Fame coaches. They're icons in college basketball. But it's been so long. But that's also one of the reasons I wanted to do it. It's all they have is Phi Slamma Jamma. There's nothing from '84 to 2018. So it's kids that are coming up now. We never hear Phi Slamma Jamma unless it's an older reporter like Matt Musil. He always talks about it. Mark Berman's a wild card. Berman's, you never know what he's going to ask. Joseph Duarte's more the studious type, analytical type. But those are my guys. Those are my Houston guys. But the players don't relate to it anymore, but the fans do. We had, and that's great, because that's when I think of Phi Slamma Jam, I think of success. But as far as recruiting, you never talk about it or never mention it, because it's not relative to these kids today, but it is relative to the program. But I think you should honor the past, but don't live in it. Live in the future. Live today.
Down here in the front.
Brian Smith, Houston Chronicle. Kelvin, you talked during your previous NCAA tournaments with UH about how rough it was in those first couple years in terms of furniture and exposure and on, but these last 3 years specifically, Sweet 16, Final Four last year, Elite Eight, maybe the Final Four this year and more, what's it mean for everything in the future that you're continuing to build? You have Dana, who got to 12-2 this year. I mean, your two flagship programs are both competing at a very high level, and that's going to continue to lift the entire athletics program up in terms of exposure, recruiting, revenue, all the things you have to do to compete at the highest level in the NCAA.
Well, being invited to a Power 5 school is I coached in the Pac-10, the Big 12, the Big 10. College basketball is college basketball. You don't coach any different, no matter where you are. There's a lot of teams in our league who would compete well in just about any conference. But Houston was a little bit like an orphan there for a while. All the other kids got foster homes. They got picked up by someone, and Houston didn't. They had to. They got lost in the wilderness for a while. College basketball is about the teams you play. Teams you play build your program. It's like when I was at Washington State. UCLA. Every year, UCLA, Arizona, Cal, Stanford, Oregon State, Washington, Arizona State, came to Beasley Performing Arts Coliseum, Friel Court, Friel, I think. And they, year after year, families, generations look forward to that. University of Houston had the Southwest Conference, so it was Texas, Arkansas, Texas Tech, Baylor, Texas A&M, and that's what they sank their teeth into, and it was thriving. Nobody remembers how great a player Otis Birdsong was. He's one of my favorite players. I loved Otis Birdsong. The greatest Cougar of them all was not somebody from Phi Slamma Jamma. It was Elvin Hayes. Elvin Hayes, the greatest Cougar. He's the godfather. But all those things went by the wayside when they didn't get picked up to go to the Big 12. Then they started losing their bearings, and so it's Conference USA instead of. It's nothing against anybody in that league, but instead of Texas A&M was Old Dominion. Instead of this school, it was this school, and then there's hurt recruiting. I thought the administrators dropped the ball on facilities. Before I came, they fired a coach every 4 years. 16 years, 4 coaches. Facilities didn't change, so whose fault is that? You keep firing coaches, but you haven't done anything to help them. But that was the thing that I did. I didn't ask. If not for me, then the next coach. You don't do it. Our job is to put these student athletes in the best position to be successful. It's like nobody cared, nobody believed. That's what disappointed me the most. But now, we've had to overcome a lot in those first few years, and whereas a school like Villanova can't relate to that. They've always been Villanova. We played Villanova when I was at Oklahoma, when they had Kyle Lowry and that bunch. There's always been the next era at Villanova kept the previous era relevant because they never went down. They've just been so great over the years, and having a Hall of Fame coach like Jay Wright, who's an icon in this profession himself, he's gonna get what it takes to keep that program relevant and great. Whereas Houston was aching and begging for just relevancy. Villanova was always Villanova. But Houston's coming back, and we're building a sustainable product here. This is our 5th year being ranked. It should be our 5th consecutive year. And that's a big deal for us. We're not Villanova. Villanova's up here. We're down here. We're not, maybe one day we can, but we're not there yet. But that's okay. You have to be comfortable in your own skin. There's not a lot of Villanovas. Last year, neither Duke nor Kentucky made the NCAA tournament. Those programs, a lot of programs have gone down and gone back up, but not Villanova. They're great every year, and that's a credit to the administration. But that administration's lucky to have Jay Wright.
Go here in the center.
Matt Musil, KHOU 11. After what you said, I should probably ask this. Well, back in the day, before Slamma Jamma, but I won't.
Well, it's 2022, so you're right. You probably shouldn't.
Hey, but one of the greatest ever, Keem Olajuwon, said last night. Of course, he loves the way you guys play. You know that. But he said these guys know how to win. They know how to win. That's not exactly a skill set. That's more of a mindset, correct? How do you get that across that they have acquired that skill set?
That's probably an unanswerable question. I don't know. What's our? I kind of feel stupid right now. What's our record? Anybody know what our record is?
32-5.
Yeah. Last year we were 28-4. Last year's team knew how to win too. Year before that, I don't know how many wins we had. Year before that was 33. Year before that, 27. I know that. So it's not this year's team. It's every year. Our program knows how to win. So I think you have to dig deeper than asking about this year. You're kind of late to the party.
Back here on the right.
Kelvin, Brendan Quinn with The Athletic. I think last night or previously you mentioned the fan base having to relearn how to be a fan base. I wonder if you have a distinct memory when you came aboard of that skepticism that you kind of felt was maybe permeated everything around the program, that when you really realized what that looked like.
Well, when I took the job, I felt like we had to be Walmart. We kind of had to do everything. We had a marketing department, but we did not. Just this year, we played Memphis in our conference tournament championship, for instance. And the hotel I was staying in, kind of had a panoramic view in the back. You could see different, over here, over here, over here. And my wife said, "Come look at this." And it was, I can't remember what time. I think it was an early afternoon. It was on a Sunday, Selection Sunday, that day. Memphis was getting ready to get on the bus and go to the arena to play us. And I saw lines of Memphis fans, cheerleaders, the band. They had this big pep rally. And I just shook my head. I said, you know what, we should have thought of that. The coaches, my daughter, Lauren. So I told Lauren, I said, Lauren, we need to get our fans out to support our guys. Because I felt bad. I felt bad that I had not done enough. Because we don't, basketball season, we've had to do the marketing. So like I go around campus, my daughter sets it up where I go around campus and I have a bullhorn and we go to the student union and I kind of act silly and play with the students. I like that stuff anyway, so I'm okay with it. We tell them we got a game. Football season's over. We are in Texas now. Football season's over. Basketball season started. We got a game. Season starts Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. So we go and play Memphis, win the game, come back home, get back late that night. It's about a 4-hour bus ride from Fort Worth to Houston. Got back late, nobody there. And I said, this is going to be the last time this happens. I want our kids to feel special. But if that's going to happen, we're going to have to do it. So I had a radio show on Monday, and I talked about it. I said, when we go to the NCAA tournament, I want our fans to come out and support these young men. They work hard. I mean, I know how hard this team works. And I want our fans to come out and show some support and appreciate them. And lo and behold, we had a great crowd. I talked about it on the radio show. My daughter, Lauren, who's director of external operations, she just took the bull by the horns and ran with it. And then we got back from, then when we left to come to this tournament, went to Pittsburgh. Now here we are in San Antonio. We had a great send-off. Last night after the game, went back to the hotel. Man, you got to understand what this place looked like in 2014. I'm not going to go into that, but that's where the gratification comes from. It's not the wins. I appreciate that our fans appreciate our program now. We've had to work at that. You know, schools like Villanova, you can't relate to that because you've never had to go. You haven't been down to these depths, and to see where it is now, and to see the look on our kids' faces. I'm probably too old to. When you get old like me, you everything you do is for the players. It's their program. It's this players program. Fabian White, the winningest player in the history of our school. He's not from another era. He's from this era. These kids, right now, today, 2022. Be proud of that. Don't live in another era. I've felt like I've had to constantly educate that we are good. We have a really good basketball program. Are we iconic? Of course not. Are we great? Long way away. But we're working hard to get better. And we've got some sustainment going that's been pretty good. You go to a Final Four, recruiting changes. It helps. It brings visibility to your program. But I do appreciate our staff. I've got a great staff. 3 former players are on my staff. I like to keep familiarity around. It helps our kids. So it's been fun building this, and it had to be built, and it had to be built the right way, and it had to be done brick by brick, and we did. We built it brick by brick.
We got time for one last question here in the front. Jim?
Jim Vertuno with the Associated Press. Coach, given the new universe of the NIL, are you comfortable with the current environment of few rules, or should there be more from the NCAA or conferences? And the second part to that is, how do you see the new NIL era impacting a program like Houston's as you see developments like the multi-million-dollar collectives and such that have popped up at other programs?
Well, to answer your first part, I don't know how this can go forward unless you do have some directives. I don't know enough about it. Dana Holgerson, our football coach, he and I and Kellen, our associate head coach, and Dana's associate head coach, and Chris Spessman, our athletic director, we met about what are we going to do, what are the parameters, what do we need. I think everybody's looking at what everybody else is doing, because I don't know what to do. I don't know enough about it, Now, fortunate for us, we've got a pretty good recruiting class coming in. NIL did not come up with any of those kids. The NIL, I think, from what I can gather, I think it's going to pertain more to your current players for basketball than the kids coming in. It depends on who you're recruiting. I don't recruit the same kids that the top level schools may be recruiting. Look at the kids on this stage. None of these kids, I don't know if any of them have. I don't think one of our players, maybe Sasser and Tremont, they may, but I don't know that any of these kids have NIL deals. I don't know that has affected us yet, but I'm sure it will. because I think the unknown part is the future. What's that going to look like? You know, between this transfer portal, between the transfer portal and NIL, I mean, all those things are things that program builders, and I've always thought of myself as a program builder. And there's a lot of great ones out there. It's like everything is set up to be anti-program building because it's hard to build in cement now. Everything's almost in sand. You know, I've spent, you know, my assistants said, you know, we got to do this, we got to do that. They're coaching me probably more than I'm coaching them on this stuff because I don't know enough about it. But fortunately for us, we just have phenomenal kids. Just like the people in the Philadelphia area, mainline, know how great those Villanova kids are. Well, so are ours. Our kids are great, just as good. And that's why that stuff hasn't infiltrated on us yet. Nobody's held us for ransom. You know, if you want me, here's what it's going to take. I haven't had any of that. And I don't know if I should say yet or not, because I'm not sure how much I want to get into that game. I want kids that want to play basketball. I want kids that want to develop, want to get better, want to play in the NBA. You know, not to see how much money I can make along the way. I mean, that probably sounds archaic, but you know, that's kind of the way I feel about it.